Hello everyone, welcome. My name is MJ Pestridge. Welcome to another flight simulation video. Now, if you're new to my channel, I usually do sort of like P3D flight simulation related content here. That is my favorite sim of choice. But I've seen a lot of people who have recently, and majorly since the sort of recent UK update, had a lot of issues with the Microsoft Flight Simulator. Now, my thoughts aside on that simulator, I thought I would do a video to help you guys out because I can see that there's been a lot of gamers coming into this sort of community of ours, the flight simulation community, and you know, flight simulation and games are two different things. So with this video, I hope to cover everything you need to know if you're coming into Microsoft Flight Simulator for the first time and you want to know how to get it going, or if you've perhaps only just started doing it and you're having a lot of troubles getting it to run, then this video is for you. Or even if you've had it for a long time and suddenly you've hit a stumbling block, okay? This video is for you, okay? We're going to cover the complete from installation, from pre-installation to installation to getting the sim running. We're going to cover everything. So this video might be 3 parts, and I'm very sorry for how long the part 1 will be, but stay with me, and by the end we will get you flying no matter what. Okay, right, so first things first, there's a few things that you're going to need to do to your PC to make sure that your game, your flight simulator, will run properly. And the first of it is in the Windows settings here. So bring up your Windows settings. There's a few of these things you need to tick. So heading to the gaming side first, go into game mode and make sure that is on. If it's off, turn it on. The Microsoft Flight Simulator works better when game mode is turned on. Also, make sure that you've got the latest Windows updates, but make sure that you're completely up to date with that. Now, in terms of your NVIDIA or your AMD graphics card, you don't need the latest and greatest one of those. So don't think, oh, I've got to rush to get up to date with that. Just make sure that you are on a graphics card driver that is no later than the beginning of this year. If you're on the latest, update driver, your game, your Microsoft Sim might not run properly, and the reason is because Microsoft Flight Simulator came out in 2020. It came out sort of in August 2020. So any graphics card driver from let's say April of 2020 or thereafter will definitely work with the Microsoft Flight Simulator. But with their new updates they've been doing, any of the latest drivers are untested with that sim, so you might find that it have trouble running if you're on the latest driver. If you're on a driver that goes up until say about February of this year, February 2021, then that's probably the cutoff date. So you're looking to have a driver installed into your GPU from April 2020 to sort of February 2021. Any dates in there and you'll be good to go. Secondly, like I said, update your Windows updates. Now, thirdly, finally, go into your Windows accounts here and make sure you're signed in to a local account. It doesn't change anything really for your PC, but it does make sure that the installation will go through properly with the right digital ownership rights. So if you see a thing down here that says sign in with a local account, click it. It'll ask you to create a new password. You can use your Microsoft account password. And then just sign in, and nothing really will change for you on your PC, but for the installation of Microsoft, it means something real big. It might not even install properly under the Microsoft account if you're installed, so make sure it says local account under here. And finally, go into this PC. Now, I've already done a video on this, so I'll actually link that down below, but make sure you set permissions for all of the drives that are going to be connected to your flight sim, including the C drive. It's important because temporary files will get stored to the C drive. I'm choosing to install my flight sim on the E drive, so we have to make sure that the permissions are set correctly. Otherwise, a lot of problems will come up. And you can tell if you're sharing the permissions properly if you go into security, and if it says everyone here and all these are ticked, then you've got it set correctly. If you haven't, I'll link a video down below. Check that out and you're good to go. And then obviously make sure you've got the Xbox app for Windows 10 downloaded and installed, which is exactly what I'm about to do right now. So always right click and run as admin and just install it. Now, one thing to note whilst you're before you start the installation of the actual simulator itself, make sure that Windows Defender is actually up and running. I think it's pretty crucial that Windows Defender be active before you install the simulator. I don't think the simulator will install correctly if it isn't active. And also, make sure you disable your firewall for any antivirus software that you do have, because that can actually get in the way of installing every single file that the simulator needs. So make sure that's all done as well. Now, for anybody who uses the NVIDIA control, like NVIDIA graphics card, at the end of this video I'm going to, or at the end of the series of videos, I'm going to run through real quick the settings that I have placed on my control panel, and I find that they are the best use for the Microsoft Simulator program, and they are different from many other programs that I run, and even from my default ones I run. So at the end of the series of videos, I will go through my settings for there. Doesn't mean that they're the right settings for you. You've got a different hardware, you've got different GPU, you've got different memory perhaps, or even a different CPU. But if you have a comparable system to mine, and the specs are down below, then you could possibly mirror my settings, or it's a guide on how you could handle yours. Now, one thing I do really advise is that you sign in using the Microsoft Authenticator, and that you use your PIN to sign into instead of a password. It's a bit more secure than just using your password. We don't need that. So once you're signed into your account, also just make sure that you're signed into the correct account, because it might be slightly different depending. If you click on games I own, you should see the correct one version here. Obviously I've owned the Game Pass version, and I've actually bought the standard edition, but make sure it shows up here. If it doesn't show up here, it could be that you're on the Game Pass and you need to actually click on Game Pass first, and then actually scroll down to the correct location, and then click on it, and then it'll say install, and then you click on that, and then you can install it. So just make sure you've got the correct version there first. But for me, I am going to go with the standard one instead of the Game Pass version. So we're going to click on that, and pretty easy really. Once you've done everything I've said before, just click install, and it then gives you the option of where you want to put it. Now, to be honest, you're going to need at least 200 gig, I feel, in order to get everything you want. Make sure you've got a drive that is an SSD drive, and that has a minimum of 200 gig on it. And just to click install, that is it. Now, for anybody who is on a wireless connection, I would really recommend getting Net Limiter 4 and setting the download speed to 3 megabytes. That way, it's more manageable chunks coming through a wireless internet. Otherwise, you might actually find that you've got issues when it comes to getting the game. Also, if you when you click on it, you'll see. But if you see a button here as well as the downloading progress button, click this button here, and it's basically going to get, it says digital ownership rights. You need to download and install that first before you can actually get into download the game. Without those digital rights, this might not install correctly. Okay, so once you've done that, you can click on install for the game, and you're away you go. Now, the initial installation is only 1.4 gig. That is just the installer for the actual sim. It's not the sim itself. It's what basically comes on the disc if you buy the physical media copy, which is just the installer, which is the gateway to get the actual game. But once that's finished downloading, it should only take a couple of minutes. Now, a lot of people are going to say, like, well, what kind of specs can you run on this? You know, what's the ideal PC? And to be honest, it's really hard to sort of say that, because a lot of specs are different. But there is a simple test you can do to see if your PC is actually up to snuff. And it's a nice little indicator as well to see if your operating system is in good health as well. Because if there's any errors on your operating system, when you install your flight sim, you're going to get errors possibly, and you won't know if it's the flight sim or your operating system that's the problem. So just run a complete PC health check. If you click on here, SFC scan now, it will begin a scan of your operating system to check to see if all the files are as they should be. Is there any corruption? If there is, it will automatically fix it for you. Now, another good thing, if you're not running any other processes, this verification scan should only take 3 minutes or less on a PC that is fit for Microsoft Flight Simulator. If this verification takes longer than 4 minutes, your PC may not be up to snuff with Microsoft Flight Sim, okay? And we are only talking about the Microsoft Flight Simulator, which to me, in my honest opinion, is more of a gaming flight sim than a dedicated flight sim. It is a really good simulator if you're just starting out and just getting into it. It's not so much a good simulator if you're looking to learn real procedures and fly planes with real fidelity like the real thing. This is more of an entry flight simulator for the gaming generic public. It is fun to use, it is real fun to explore with, but if you're looking for a real hardcore simulator with real flight dynamics of real planes, then P3D X-Plane is your flight simulator. If you're looking to have fun with your mates, bing bong bish, this is it for you. So this scan literally should only take 3 minutes to do, and then you know your PC is up to snuff, and that is the best way to check if it is good or not. It's been about 2.5 minutes for me. This is going to finish within 3 minutes, so I know my PC can handle the flight sim. Now, once this scan is run, if it has found problems, it will say, these are the problems, we've fixed them, you can continue. If it has found no problems, it will say, basically, dude, you got no problems on your PC. There we go. Did not find any intricate violations. So, boom. I know my PC is pretty decent. It says here that Microsoft Flight Simulator has been installed on my E drive, which is good. It's 127 gig of a download. So basically, that's that. So if I go back to games I own and click on that now, I only need to click play to actually install the simulator. It doesn't actually install it. It just installs the installer. So once you click that, you now are going to download 127 gig. So make sure you've got some time aside for this download, because if anything does go wrong, you're going to want to action it straight away rather than just sort of leave it overnight to hang and then fail. Now, I also, again, really do recommend that if you're on a wired connection, having a connection that is stronger than 100 megabytes is going to be an advantage. If you have a connection that is weaker than 100 megabytes, you're going to find issues with the installation or even the use of the simulator. This simulator uses, mapping from its Azure AI servers, which means it's coming in directly through the internet pipeline, which means, the quicker it can come into your sim, the better your world gets filled and the better experience you have. The initial landscape is also done through servers, so you know, if you've got a really sort of bad connection which keeps dropping out, or if you have a really low connection of like 25 megabytes or anything like that, you might find it actually troublesome to use this on the unlimited setting. You might actually have to reduce that setting down to say 5 or 25 in the back-end system, and then it will run a little bit better. But just remember this: the higher you run your internet connection, let's say if you're running an internet connection that's like 400 plus, the more CPU it's actually going to use that data through the Ethernet. So if you max out your internet using the simulator, then your CPU load goes up, which means that's less CPU load for your simulator. So just, you got to bear all this in mind, really. So just remember, when you come to this spot here, it says install packages pathway. Just remember, even though it says the C drive here, it says 216 gig available, it's using my E drive to install those packages. So we just click update, and then it installs the 151 gig into that location. And even though it said the C drive, it's actually installing it into the E drive, which I'll be able to verify that it is as soon as this updates and it says 210 or whatever it says. When I refresh this page, I'll literally see this go down as opposed to this go down, even though it did say C drive. If we do actually go to the location of where it does install, which is program data, users, my name, program app data, local, packages, here, and then Microsoft Flight Simulator, you'll notice it's actually full of symbolic link folders. So it's not actually full of actual folders like here. System data does go into here, but the actual app data, it's a symbolic link onto the E drive here. So I'll see the sort of space go down on that drive. So don't be confused. If you change the pathway of that name, then you might possibly mess up your installation. It knows you want to install it to your E drive because you've already told the game past that. So just let it install where it needs to install, and everything, it will do the rest. So okay, so literally this took around about 7 hours to do. Because of my connection, it was limited to 40 megabytes per second. I think my usual internet connection's like something like 180, but it was a limited download, which I believe I had set in a previous version that I'd installed of the Microsoft Flight Simulator, and I'd set it in the menu, so it must have actually remembered those settings, because usually it will download at the rate at which you just normally download, and it will take full advantage of your bandwidth. Now, the how long it's going to take to download will really depend on your internet connection. If you've got a connection less than 100 megabytes, this is going to take a few hours. If you've got a really good internet connection, then this is going to take less than a few hours. Say this one took about 7 to 8 hours for me. I've heard of it taking a lot longer for people, but if you feel it's hung, literally just close it down and kill the process in the task manager and start again. But make sure it really has hung and not actually that you can't read the full, the full sort of description of what packet it's downloading. Sometimes it cuts off the full title. The way you can really tell it's hung is if you go into your task manager and you look under the process, and literally nothing's being written to disk, nothing's in the memory, and nothing is in the CPU, or it says not responding. That's a real hung task. Kill the process, restart it, and you're good to go. So, like I say, it's patience really is what's going to win here. But as you can see, it's finished. We click continue, and it goes through the setup. Now, I have a controller plugged up to my flight sim, as well as 2 throttle quadrants and a joystick controller. So it's going to be really interesting to see which one it actually does pick up, because I'd like to use the controller with this. I don't have an Xbox One controller. I have a PlayStation controller. So I've actually found that using an Xbox One controller is overall more easier than using a proper joystick and throttle quadrant. I found it a lot harder to control because your mouse is your view in the cockpit now. Your eyes, you move your eyes around with the mouse, and you have to keep flicking between the mouse and then also actually like clicking to use your mouse as a click spot thing. So I actually found it a lot easier to set up. Now it hasn't actually asked me about my controls, so that's a bit worrying. Hopefully it will be here. So we got mouse. Yes, I got that. It hasn't actually picked up anything else, so that's such a shame. Oh dear. It has picked up the throttle quadrant, the 2 throttle quadrants, sorry. That, and there's the wireless controller. Brilliant. That's the one I'll be using. If you have an Xbox One controller, it really will pick it up by default. If you don't, then yeah. It looks like I'll have to actually set that myself. So I'm going to quickly set the what I want, and I mean, it's pretty simple. You just literally click on what you want, click the button, and then it's assigned. So I'll do that, and I'll come right back. But that's basically it. I mean, once you've done this, we're gonna go to part 2, which is the settings of the actual sim, because what actually should happen is when you first load up, is it actually yeah, play and save that. It actually should ask you about what it thinks your quality setting will be. Now, it didn't ask me about my quality settings because I have previously installed this and it's already allocated it and or picked it up from the last time I used it. So, but what I would suggest is trying one of these presets here for rendering quality. There's low end, there is medium, there is high, and then there is ultra. Try one of these presets, go for a flight, see how it performs. Start with the lowest and work your way up. If your settings are on low and you get the performance you're looking for, then increase it to medium until it starts to stutter, and then go back one. And then you can fine tune each one. But that's what really should happen, you know, when you first install. It should actually ask you, we've determined your quality level for you, and then it'll talk about your controllers, unless you've already installed it, in which case it's already done. So you kind of have to go back in and do it all again. Alright, anyway, thanks for watching this video. In part 2, I'm going to show you exactly what settings I'll be choosing for all of this, we'll be talking a little bit about how to get the best performance from this. But thanks for watching, and thank you for liking this video and subscribing. I've got loads more Microsoft related videos coming up in the future. Subscribe and you'll get notified of them all. Make that bell ring, and join my Discord and you'll know exactly when it goes live. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye bye.